You're listening to the Crowdfunding Nerds Podcast, a podcast that will help you succeed before, during, and after your crowdfunding event. And now, here is your host, Andrew Lowen.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds, which is a crowd of funding a nerds.
It's a crowd of funding nerds.
I'm joined as always by Rick and sexy Irish Sean, and it's me, Mario.
Pizza tonight.
What's up, nerds?
What's up? That's right. I love those two plumbers. They've always been great to me. Well, Stellaris Infinite Legacy, which is they're pushing now a 4X board game based on the PC game, and they say it's got about 2 hours of story and exploration. Sheesh, now it's at
$2.3 million.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the U.S. money inflated or the euros going up. But yeah, about 2.3
They're over
million.
13,000 backers. Very
Still
impressive.
Got 10 days to go.
Stellaris started off as a video game, and somebody took the video game concept and the legacy concept and really did something cool. They call it an infinite legacy because evidently you create a faction at the beginning of your first game and you explore and you kind of grow your faction, and then at any point you can actually put your faction away, retire it, or maybe I don't know if your faction can die or what, but you can start a new faction at any time and then actually encounter your old faction. So it's like a customization thing that is like an ever-changing, evolving game.
It's got a higher base pledge than most board games on Kickstarter. Their base starts at $110, where most board games are like in the $60 range. Also, they promise to ship anywhere in the world. That could be that could be a big discussion right there. I don't know if logistically that's possible and still make money.
When you ship, there are absolutely going to be places that you lose money. If you plan to ship to Brazil, or if you plan to ship to, Russia or some other very kind of far out of normal shipping lanes country, it's going to be very expensive. And where you kind of have to make up that money is, let's say you shipped like 20 copies to Australia. You sold 20 copies into Australia, for example. It would make natural sense if you wanted to sell games in Australia for a long time that you would ship a pallet into a warehouse. But that might be, in the end, several $1,000s, let's say, to ship a pallet of 100 games or, something like that. Let's just say like $1,500. But if you were to air flight 20 copies in, it might be $500 for 20 copies only instead of 100 to get them into Australia. But you serve each of your backers and you saved $1,000. So it's kind of I have these conversations every once in a while with clients where they're like, what should I do? Should I, save money and, basically save overall in the short term, but kind of lose out on, long-term success?
No one's going to get their board game right now because of that big old container ship that's stuck. In fact, they're saying it's going to take at least a couple weeks to move it now. It's just, it's blocked, and it's blocked in such a way it blocks the whole canal. Like it's just sideways. And this thing is humongous. This ship is just ridiculously big. And it got stuck.
Oh my goodness. So
that halts trade all over the world. Like literally, that's just like,
not only board games, but it's like relief for food around the world for people that are starving and
fancy rich cars and
that's
the
right.
IKEA furniture we need in our stores.
That's wild. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess we'll see what kind of effect that has on future shipping. But I think with the whole COVID situation causing a significant delay in shipments, everybody's trying to get their product shipped from China or from India or wherever. And I guess there's a traffic jam. So I delaying for a couple of weeks, I bet ships are going to actually reroute through different locations, and you're gonna find a delay that way. I wonder what long-term effect this will have on shipping, if any. And actually, this whole shipping thing, it's a big deal to customers. The experience that they have buying from you is kind of a big deal. If you have if you have a great buying experience, you have a great price, a great offer, they like it, your commercials are funny, whatever, they want to try it. if they buy it and then it takes 2 weeks to get it, it can leave a little sour taste in their mouth, and you'll get less orders, or maybe you'll lose out on a customer that could have been a true fan otherwise.
How do companies circumnavigate import fees in different countries? It's through the distributor, right? So you pay a distributor and they handle the import fees, and then like your pallets are being shipped to a warehouse, which is the distributor's warehouse, and then they ship it out to people. Is that the idea?
The basic idea is that if I bought something directly from the UK, it would cost a lot to ship because the United States imposes extra taxes on anything that comes in from the UK,
It's
import
ironic, isn't
taxes.
it?
I know, especially tea, you know. But yeah, so you have this import tax, and it is based upon the value of the item. So if I buy something for $50, it's based on that $50 valuation, the tax that I'm going to pay. When you are shipping it kind of you get your stuff from your manufacturer and you ship to fulfillment centers, you want to ship to a fulfillment center in the region that you plan to fulfill, because let's say if I, as somebody in the US, I make a product and have it manufactured in China, and then it gets shipped across the world, I'm going to pay import taxes for, let's say I bring it into the UK, but I am going to pay it based on the manufacturer, the
Mm.
manufacturing amount. So if my game costs $50, maybe it only cost me five or $10 to make it, and so I'm going to pay taxes based on that amount. And if I pay taxes on that much lower amount, in return, or rather, as a result, my buyers from within that region will just get to pay what I call, or what's called, last mile shipping, the last few miles to get it from the fulfillment center, which is local in their country, to their doorstep. And there are no taxes associated with that other than whatever their carriers are charging.
Now, there
um,
is a major issue that some people may or may not experience, depending on how lucky or unlucky you are. I used to work for this world famous zoo. I'm not going to mention the name because there's so many world. Oh wait, I used
it's
to
the
work for.
most world
It's
famous.
the most world famous zoo in the world. Anyway, a lot of the merchandise would come from outside the United States and would be imported in on a sea container through shipping. And the worst thing that happens, and it's just you can't do anything about it, your package may be randomly picked by customs for inspection, or your sea container. And so if your order is on there, it can be delayed for up to 6 to 9 months,
Ooh,
depending on how they're handling it and what's going on. Like literally, it's just like you can't do anything about it. You can't go down and get it. You can't do anything. It is considered like its own little world, and you cannot touch it.
wow. That is something I hope never happens to me.
We had a shipment that got stuck for 9 months, and like we literally just ran out of the item that we were selling, and we're like, we're really sorry, it's sort of stuck at the moment.
Let's get into our topic of discussion. That was kind of a fun chat about shipping and all of these other campaigns. I was asked by a fan of crowdfunding nerds. He just was somebody that's starting a board game company, and he wanted some feedback on various things. Ben Levy, if you're listening to this, we're talking about you. He had a lot of great questions. We started talking about Deliverance and the game I'm developing, and he said that he found a lot of value listening to the episode where we discussed kind of where Deliverance came from and what a lot of the marketing premises behind Deliverance. And he said that he feels like the hook of the show is that because we have so much current involvement with Kickstarter and crowdfunding, he loves how we share just all about our experiences, the highlights of the journey, the problems, and the good, the bad, and the ugly of the journey. And so he encouraged me to talk more about Deliverance, and it would certainly be self-serving if I did, but I thought, there's such an opportunity for lessons that I am personally experiencing for the first time, and that I should share them. I mean, we've certainly helped market a lot of other people and help people be quite successful in crowdfunding. But as I'm going through it myself for the first time, there are a lot of things challenges that I'm experiencing, even with all of the knowledge that I've gained over the years working in this industry, there's a lot. There are areas that we're ahead, areas that we're behind, and so I thought we would talk about that, and where we are at today as a company marketing a product that is going to Kickstarter. Should hopefully be an enlightening discussion. It's definitely not necessarily meant for you to just go back the Kickstarter, but it's meant for you to, just hear a firsthand case study while we're right in the middle of it. Well, the Deliverance campaign is interesting. So it's the game itself has two primary modes of play. One is the skirmish, which everybody has been playing and loving and whatnot, but that feels a little bit more like a tactical combat game and less of a dungeon crawl, even though there are dungeon crawl elements. The challenge I'm finding, kind of from a marketing perspective, is that the campaign, the more that I'm able to show of it, the more complete it's able to be, the better it's going to look when the game actually goes live. Talking about the challenge, I feel like we're really behind in the campaign because my graphic artists are working really hard on other things that need to be finished. Like our rule book, for example. The guy who would do the campaign book is finishing the polish on the rule book. And so that's kind of a major element of concern for me, honestly, is that the campaign just feels like the actual game, I mean, the mechanics and everything like that feel really good. We reached a few breakthroughs. One of the things about a game with a campaign is that the first thing people do is they're gonna probably bust out the campaign. And the thing about Deliverance is that the skirmish mode is the real, like, the meat of why you would keep this on your shelf for a long time. So the challenge with the campaign, so basically people who play the skirmish absolutely dig the game and they want to play it a bunch and play it again and again. Now, the campaign, if it doesn't live up to the hype of the skirmish, then people are just honestly never experience the skirmish mode. So from a marketing perspective, my goal with the campaign was to, number one, teach people the game quickly, and so that they're not going to have to read a 32-page rule book before they start bumbling through the first game, but that the first mission of the campaign almost serves like a tutorial that more advanced players may even want to skip. Mission 2 is kind of like the first full battle with all of the mechanisms working, and that kind of thing. And then mission number 3 is, I think, the really needs to be a skirmish battle. That's going to get people into what this game really can be in the first few missions. And I think that people will give the first mission a go and they'll figure out the rules because it's pretty easy, and then the second mission they'll put it all together and they won't have to spend like 4 hours trying to figure out how to make it through the first battle of a skirmish, or I don't know, whatever. Some people learn fast, others learn slow, and so I wanted to kind of use the campaign as a tool to spoon feed people. And from a marketing perspective, you just want people to play your game as many times as possible. The more times people play your game, the more they're going to want to talk about it, the more they're going to be fans of it, and that kind of thing, right? And so the campaign is just, I feel like we're a little bit behind just in the ability to show the campaign off, you know?
And how do you treat failed campaigns, like in at gameplay wise? I feel this is where a lot of games drop the ball, is they almost have like one narrative, and like, I find that a campaign should continue with success or failure. Like a lot of campaigns, like you cannot go to the next mission unless you've successfully completed it. I prefer campaigns that continue the story
Mhm.
even if you fail the campaign. Is that something that you've done with Deliverance?
Yeah, actually, I've thought about that. I agree as well. Some games that have done this well. You have Pandemic Legacy. If you lose a game, then you have to replay the same mission. But if you lose again, then you move on to the next mission. And in that game, you actually get a benefit, kind of like a little bit of a bonus, so that the next time you try the game, it's a little bit easier, and they keep you moving through the story. One thing I agree with you is that nobody wants to, if for whatever reason something has their number, they just gets stuck and annoyed, and they don't want to lose again and again in the same exact scenario. So what I want to do with Deliverance is I will force people to play missions 1, 2, and 3, and then starting at mission number 4, really you can play, you can go to mission 4, which would be, let's say, town hall. You can go, and that would be like a small little burst of like mission 4 and 5, like a 2 mission series. And then you can go to, I don't know, like you've got the mountain cave, which has an event that happens, and that's like mission 7 and 8, or 8 and 9. And so for the Deliverance campaign, you can kind of complete it piecemeal. So you have to complete every one of the missions before you get to complete like the final series of missions. Like it's spread into chapters. So you have chapters 1 through 7, and you have to complete the first 6 chapters before you can play through chapter 7. But after you complete chapter 1, you get to play the chapters in any order. So if you're having a particularly difficult time, then you can change the way that you play.
Okay, and then
So
and you might be stronger by the time you go back to that mission you failed and be able
uh,
to fulfill it. Is that the idea?
right, or just maybe you have more understanding. In Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle Earth, as another example of a game that forces you to play through the campaign. You have to play through a mission before you can complete the next mission. It can be really frustrating when you lose. So you can either, if a character dies, you lose at the end of the round, and then if what is called the threat meter goes to maximum, you lose as well. And threat often beats a lot of people in that game, where the formula for threat is quite easy to understand. Let's say you have 100 threat per mission, or for a particular mission, and then in a given round your threat increases 1 time at the very end of the round. And it's just a simple equation: 1 threat per unexplored tile in the game, and then 1 threat per there's a threat token that can appear on tiles. And if it's like, all right, I have, looks like I'm going to get 9 threat this round, you can really start to control it. And it becomes quite easy to say, okay, that means we have another 5 rounds left before the game is over. So we have to try to win in 5 rounds, or we could lower our threat by a little bit and then we get 6 rounds or whatever. And you just all of a sudden, it's like this major breakthrough that you have, and all of a sudden certain missions that were just destroying you because you didn't understand how that mechanic worked are now quite easy. So I definitely think that just giving people a little more time to play through the game and understand how it works, I think that's you know very important in a campaign.
So whenever anyone goes to Kickstarter, there's certain hygiene factors. These are things that people must have. They're like sort of like a minimum requirement of entry. And the way we explain this is that it's like going on a date. There's certain things you have to do. They won't necessarily mean you'll get a second date, but they certainly will harm your chances or the effect of you getting that second date. So it's the same
If
with
you fail to
Kickstarter.
do those things, right?
Yeah, if you fail to do those things.
Fail
So
to brush
one
your
would be like
teeth, comb your
fail to brush
hair,
your teeth, comb your hair.
open the door, depending on your level of chivalry required, or,
Yeah,
or whatever, pay for the meal. I don't know.
yeah, washing your clothes. I don't know, something like that. Not talking about board games all the time. That would help.
Yes. Oh man.
So there's certain things that you need for Kickstarter, and some of these are review videos, playthrough videos, gifts of your game, high quality art, your Kickstarter trailer, and then a solid pricing or a solid offer. So Andrew, whereabouts are you on all of these pressure points for Kickstarter? How's the review video coming along?
Yeah, so reviews are quite interesting for Deliverance. I always preach that you need to have reviews for your game. It's one of the most important hygiene factors that it really serves as proof that someone else has vetted this game, that is trustworthy and approves of it. A lot of people are on the fence, that look at a game and say, this looks good, I'm willing to investigate further, I just need to get some questions answered. And one of the biggest questions is, am I going to like this game? You want to see gameplay and other people talking about it, so that you can get opinions and really kind of answer the question for yourself, because you can't actually physically play it. Maybe you can on Tabletop Simulator, but despite that, reviews are still very important. So what a lot of people do is they'll look at reviewers that they trust, and they will say, okay, well, if Tom Vassell of the Dice Tower likes it, maybe I will. Or if Rado, or if Colin from One Stop Co-op Shop likes it, or Jesse from Quackalope, or whatever. These will really help people make decisions. And so where I'm at for this, there was a wrinkle that I didn't expect. So I believe that reviewers need to like your game before they receive it, and they actually will vet games based off of their taste before they actually give it a review. People that I mentioned Colin from One Stop Co-op Shop. Guy loves co-op games. Guy loves big dungeon crawlers and other things like that. And so I know that that would be an excellent person to review my game. And you look at let's say someone else like, I don't know, this might not be 100% accurate, but let's say like Dan King from Game Boy Geek. He does a lot of lighter games, and I know that just from knowing him and meeting him at conventions and whatnot, we're always playing lighter games when we're together. So I know maybe like a very heavy dungeon crawl might not be down his alley, as much as an example. So I know that's not a perfect example because Dan may love dungeon crawls and I just don't know it. So I have a lot of people that were willing to review it. I have some people that were beating my door down, begging to review it. And I would say, people who say, "Oh yeah, yeah, pay me money and I will review it," versus someone that's like, "Can I please review this? I would love this game. I want to introduce it to my friends. I want to show it to my people." I would rather have the latter, passionate people. And so
And
that's one thing.
folks, you
Yeah,
know, one place to find those types of people is in your Facebook group or on your online community that you have grown through your pre Kickstarter marketing and through this virtuous cycle that we often talk about. So that's a great place to ask people who should review our game. In the comments below, let us know. And you might have some super hardcore fans saying, "I would love to do it," and if you could work something out, that's great. Or they might suggest people that, "Hey, I think this would be a really good fit," and so that's a really good place to find a really good starting point to get the ball rolling with regards to finding reviewers for your board game.
definitely. And in fact, I had, major distributors in my in my group. I had reviewers in my group. When I asked about, hey, is there anyone that you know of that you think should review Deliverance? People volunteered their information, and I was quite pleased with that. So, in some ways, I'm ahead of the curve because people know about the game. So I guess all the talking that we've done in communities over the years, I guess, has really kind of gone before us and let people know that this is a thing that exists. So when a reviewer hears about it, reviewers are quite selective sometimes. I mean, there are so many games that come out and there's only so much time in the day. If you're willing to pay them, that's one thing, but you also need to have a product that is really appealing, because if they review this, they're basically saying no to being able to review another product, right? And
Mhm.
so there's no shortage of games to review right now, especially for the popular channels. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey there. So I feel like I'm a little bit behind in a lot of ways. I always tell people, at 3 months, like your 3 month timer, when you're allowed to count down for your Kickstarter, it's always a 90-day timer in my view, and that 90-day timer starts when you're ready to start soliciting reviewers to review your game. They take about, if you want to have every reviewer, then or I'm sorry, any reviewer that you want, you need to give them about 3 months notice. Some of them are going to say, no, I'm just too busy, and others will, if you give them enough time, they would have been too busy, but yeah, sure, 3 months, I could do that. So, and you don't need to have your game necessarily like prototype in hand, ready to send 90 days out, although it wouldn't hurt. I find myself at the moment right about 60 days out. Maybe it's like 70 or 75 right now. And I don't have my prototypes in hand yet. And that makes me a little nervous. I've reached out to reviewers. I have a solid list of reviewers, and my intent is to have a prototype within I would say right around the 15th of April, I want to be sending prototypes out, which at the moment of this recording gives me right around like 2.5 weeks to do that. So that's kind of where I feel like I'm just really tight on time, and I wish I had more time. And the reason that I can't have more time is because I have a deliverance of another sort that is coming over the summer, which is a baby. My wife is pregnant with our sixth child, and she is due on August 9th. So if I delay too much, I could have a deliverance during the deliverance campaign and be in the hospital during. I wouldn't want to be in the hospital during the first 48 hours or final 48 hours of that campaign.
And another thing is you also have a business. You run a digital marketing agency, and often clients have come to us and say, "Oh, we know Andrew's got a game coming out. Is that going to interfere with my game?" And the reality is no, because deliverance often gets pushed to the bottom of the to-do list because we have our clients as our priority to fulfill our obligations to the contracts that they've signed with us. So
Right.
that's another element of what's delaying things.
Yeah, it is something that I won't say it delays necessarily. Like the launch date of Deliverance has to be, within like June 1st through the 15th. I'm targeting June 8th, but it is something that compacts things and really impacts my life. We had Chip Cole on a couple weeks ago, and it was really insightful because he has so many children. I have just well, he has nine, and I have five. Soon to be six, and the just trying to give time to the family while at the same time
Mhm.
giving what the project needs to be successful is very difficult. You have a lot of opportunity to. I mean, that basically the solution to getting impacted is work more hours. Like I
Mhm.
can work 12, 18 hours in a day, and I'm going to need to do that. I've done it before, and I'm going to need to do it again. But the if I prep my family for it, they're willing to support, and they're super fans of me, so they'll do whatever they need to do in order to support me. But it still takes a lot of time away from them, and it if I'm not careful, I can really throw the balance of life off. I just as much as I possibly can want to try to keep all things in balance. But you're right. I mean, we can't. We're taking money to deliver a quality service to our clients. So if at the end of the day, the thing that has to suffer, the clients can't be the thing that suffers.
Mhm.
I guess is the main point. And actually, to that point, we're actually hiring somebody. We're bringing someone on because we're
Woohoo!
just growing a lot.
Yeah.
So
I think there was one week is like every day we were getting new people who are interested and the things that we do. And that was a wild week.
yeah. Yep. And Sean, just you told me like yeah, we're just getting so many people inquiring and this and that. And I just keep telling them yes because I figure you'll just hire more people. It's like, okay, I better hire someone. So but yeah, I thought about it. It was the situation of would be, let's say if we got to where at the end of May, and Deliverance was going to launch within like 2 weeks or something on Kickstarter, and then I finally pulled the trigger on hiring someone. It's the training required. I mean that by itself requires a lot of time to train someone, to get them up to speed so that they can actually work on a ads or whatever it is and do a good job. I mean, that doesn't just unless you've got a unicorn that you just hired, you're gonna have a while of training before they're actually useful to you. That's something that we've really thought about. And so as of the end of this month, well, at the end of March, we're gonna have another staffer on the books. And the plan is to start them part-time and then move pretty quickly into full-time
As we
as we
grow.
keep growing.
So playthrough videos, probably very similar to review videos. Would it make sense that if you're sending a copy to a reviewer to also ask them to do a playthrough video?
I personally find the playthrough video is really important. Might be like a 2-hour video where it's like the entire play. And I think that that's a very important element to have on your Kickstarter page, because when people are really interested, they want to see, are my turns meaningful? Like, are there meaningful decisions? If I made the right decision, will I feel smart? Are there multiple viable builds or options to kind of achieve victory. That's really, in my opinion, the thing that the playthrough answers. Number one is that, like, will it be fun? But number two, the actual mechanics of the game, they want to see them in action, is the decision points of the game. And so for this, I absolutely think that you could have a reviewer do that. A lot of the time reviewers are personalities themselves, and they have friends and whatnot that have fun, bubbly personalities that are entertaining to watch on camera.
Yeah, tabletop is an example, right? Turning
Right.
that the playthrough into a TV show using celebrities or interesting characters. Yeah, so another thing a playthrough does, it actually teaches players how to play the game. So it's good if people are already interested in the product and they're saying, "Oh, well, actually, I want to learn how to play this. The rulebook isn't out yet or completed yet, or I don't have the time or the motivation right now to read a 30-page rulebook, but I watch a couple of minutes of like a turn or two of this playthrough to get
Mhm.
a gist of how the game plays, and so that's very valuable to consumers."
The how to play video, the playthrough video, and the let's say like a quick overview of the game are kind of three separate videos that I'm thinking about for Deliverance. The quick overview is just a little bit of it's just so that people understand what the theme is, what you're doing, why you should care, and a little bit of like the turn order, and to teach you how, like, what the feel is, what the mood is of the game, and that kind of thing. That's like a 5-minute video, maybe 5 minutes or less. And then you've got the how to play video, which actually teaches you, you've got Rodney Smith's Watch It Played, and other the Rules Girl and other things like that are companies that where it's their job to show you how a game is played, and this would be a replacement for the rule book. I think that this is very important. I plan actually in the Deliverance rulebook to have QR codes and links to give people that will help them navigate to one of those videos that they can then use to teach them the game instead of actually having to read the rules. So the rules can just be like the reference guide instead of, you know, you have to learn from the rules. That is one of the barriers to playing games is the rule book. I have to read it and it's not that fun. And then I have to, bumble through the start of a game as well. It'd be nice if you could just watch something for 20 minutes and then immediately bumble instead of bumble through the
Hmm.
game itself. And
That's a good idea.
we have plans for like the how to play. I A lot of these reviewers that like Rodney Smith with Watch It Played, he doesn't do Watch It Played for Kickstarter projects. He does it for products that are coming to market. So basically, after the Kickstarter campaign's over and when the product has a release date, he'll do a Watch It Played. And I think that that's kind of an important distinction. So I have a plan and I have a safety for this. So the plan is to have a reviewer do it or a professional company do it. But if they aren't able to, or they're not, maybe it's not going to happen in time, I'd really like to have, number one, a full playthrough video, and secondly, how to play video. So I have a local videographer that loves board games. He had Gloomhaven out on his table when we had our first conversation. It was like, all right, this is my safety. I've worked with them a couple of times on different projects, and even on our Deliverance teaser trailer, the first one we did back in March of last year. And we he did a great job. And so my safety is actually to do a full playthrough myself with some of my friends, family, local playtesters. I've got people that I'm actually modeled the art of characters after that live in my local area. My friends is like, all right, this is Brighton,
Oh, you should
aka
totally do
Uriel.
that. I don't think that should be a fallback. I think that should be the main thrust. You could
Yeah,
even make it if you even did like a tabletop kind of thing with it and made it like a little entertaining episode. Like you
yeah,
interview your friends and you made it funny, put some jingles. I think that'd be really entertaining.
that's
I think
awesome.
that's
We
a
should
great idea.
cosplay and
That's
everything.
I think you should definitely do something like that. I don't think that because that's so personable as well to you as like the designer, and
Yep,
people are so familiar with you on the Facebook group. I think that would be that's the way to go. I think if you have the
that's awesome.
time, that's the only limitation there.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. But yeah, I love the idea, and as close as we can get to, I guess, to that is where we want to be.
So how's the art coming along? one of the hygiene factors is high quality art, and I really think that this is so important. I actually think you could probably get a game funded on Kickstarter just with art,
Yes, you
because
can.
people could just say that game looks great. I want that on my shelf, and they'll buy it and not look into it. Uh, but then
Yep.
once they unbox it, it might be a different story. But
Yeah.
so how's the art coming along? Is it all complete, or you still got some things to flesh out?
Yeah, that's actually one area we are far ahead. Art for Deliverance is actually about 95% done, maybe higher. You have the risks and challenges section in the bottom of your Kickstarter page that does need information. And the more that you can show people, I've done my work, you have an extremely high probability of receiving this game because the art is all finished, number one. And there are hundreds of pieces of art in this game, and to have it's one of the top areas that kills projects is the art and the minis and that kind of thing. If you're not, if you're 40% done or 60% done, you say you're 60% done, but you may realize you've got another 95% to go after you fund on your Kickstarter, and that can be a huge deterrent to backers. So it used to be that art would really just sell a game on its own, and I find that, just knowing how far along the art is quite important. And so we really are ahead there. And we have so many awesome pieces of art that we can use. Our challenge is kind of paring down and being selective over the pieces of art that we use
Yeah, that was the
versus.
challenge of the landing page design. It's because there's just so much art, so much to use. It's like, okay, well, what should we focus on, and what's going to really move the needle? That was one of the biggest challenges of designing the landing page. So since we're on landing page, how's that coming along?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you put together kind of a landing page mock-up, and we had Alex kind of put it together. Looked really good, on the mock-up that you did, and then kind of turned it into a functional landing page. And we encountered some issues with the mobile experience versus the desktop experience. That's kind of the biggest, I think, challenge with
Hmm.
landing page design is that mobile is vertical, and it's like it's a rectangle that is stands tall, and then desktop is a horizontal rectangle, so a rectangle that stands wide. And so you have to really design kind of a separate experience for both.
Hmm.
Square images don't work very well for desktop. If they're kind of going to be your, let's say, like your feature image that is at the top of the screen, it's something that it just it doesn't work very well because that's a rectangle, right? And so modern design, you need to go, like, your website needs to stretch from edge to edge and fill up the entire screen. And so I think, some of our challenges, we're working through them and everything, and the landing page is probably live by the time this podcast goes. But to be impactful in a short time is what I find, where I find, having all of the art completed and all of the assets completed is awesome, because we have no, I could make that landing page scroll and scroll and scroll,
Hmm.
and you can have new things to see, constantly. But we need to just give people an understanding of what it is, if they why they should care, of course, how the game is kind of generally flows or how it plays.
And do you think you'll use GIF files to demonstrate some of that?
So yeah, so GIFs are really important, right? We have a company called Mesa Game Labs that we're working with to create GIFs and to create images. Or I'm sorry, the Kickstarter video. They are definitely something that I think is very important. I'm not sure if they will function well on the landing page or not, just depending on the size and everything. I think that they will do a better job teaching someone how to play than just static images and text accompanying them. But my concern is, on the landing page, that thing has to load, and GIFs are
Hmm.
heavy and quite large. So, they could really cause us a dramatic slowdown of a website when they all try to load at the same time with, large art and a fairly long page. So hosting, which is something that board game designers should probably never worry about. You should never place yourself in a position to worry about your hosting. We just happen to have that expertise, so we might. I'm definitely down to give it a try.
Solid pricing and your offer, how's that coming along?
So yeah, so this is really kind of dives into manufacturing. So I got quotes from like 9 different manufacturers. From there's Panda Manufacturing, Longpack, Gameland, Meja, I mean Bangui, a lot of other manufacturers, Hero Time Manufacturing, and a couple of them rose to the top as the ones that I wanted to work with. So I kind of settled down to 3 manufacturers that are providing quotes on my pricing, and this is where our offer is going to come from. So the first thing is our offer. I decided before the manufacturing was done, just based on what the market would bear. So
Hmm.
this is really important because the price of your game, I'm sorry, the manufacturing price of your game and the value or the number that you sell it for doesn't necessarily need to be like 5 times, your manufacturing cost, whatever. Like there's no formula that you should always apply. I mean, Catan probably makes 10 times its manufacturing cost or more. It's a very inexpensive game to manufacture. The components are very cheap, very thin, very flimsy. The game works, and they print it in such large quantities that the economies of scale probably make it extremely inexpensive to print. I guess my mindset is I look at the market and I say, what price can the market bear? What price should
Hmm.
would the market pay for this? And I think that, so I have 2 versions. One's a retail version, one is kind of a deluxe edition, and then we'll probably also do an expansion that has all of the, if somebody buys a game at retail and then they want the extra content that comes in the deluxe version, like the actual gameplay content, other angels and that kind of thing, then they can buy the expansion. So $59 for the retail edition, let's say like $40 for the expansion, or you could, which is $99, right? Or you could pay $99 for the deluxe edition, and you're going to get metal coins, the metal first initiative or first player token. You're going to get additional health dials and that sort of thing. If somebody wanted 2 sets of minis, at least I would be able to say, yeah, I have this expansion item that has the miniature sculpts in it. Or maybe someone says, I don't care about the game at all, I just want the minis. Well, they can back for $1, and then in the pledge manager they can buy only the expansion.
So since you're talking about the pledge manager, you're going with GameFound, I assume? And if so, have you set that up yet?
The most important thing from, as far as a pledge manager goes, is that I can gather data from the pledge manager on Facebook ads. That
Mm.
has become such an important thing. And depending on the pledge manager you're using, they have BackerKit and GameFound. I personally consider the top tier pledge managers. They allow you to integrate the Facebook Pixel with BackerKit and GameFound, and they actually allow you to gather data. When I say data, I mean purchases. So, for example, Cryptid Cafe, which we have been working with in the post campaign pledge manager, they've sold over 700 sets of these little like Meeple add-ons through Facebook ads, and we're getting just an incredible amount of return on those things from Facebook ads. And it's caused them, they're normally, they are a little bit conservative with the way that they spend their marketing funds. It's caused them to see like, well, this isn't a risk at all. If I pay more money to Facebook ads, I'm going to make more sales. And so they just keep bumping up the number that they're paying to Facebook ads. And they've actually sold almost as many in what it's been like 2-3 weeks, maybe a little longer since their campaign ended. They've had almost as many additional backers as they did during their entire Kickstarter campaign in the last like two,
Wow.
3 weeks. So I,
That's
as a
that's why
marketer,
it's that's why it's really important to have a realistic fund goal, because
yeah,
as long as you're funded, you can then move to your pledge manager where you could get more backers.
yeah, and I mean, the typical advice that you hear from somebody that is experienced in this industry is that you'll get 15 to 30% additional revenue from whatever you raised on your Kickstarter in the pledge manager, and that's usually from your people upgrading their sets of whatever it is. Maybe they bought extra dice, maybe they bought an extra copy of the game, or maybe they went from $1 to the full, deluxe edition of the game or something like that. Yeah, I mean, with something like Chips game, Cryptid Cafe. You've got things that people really want that just so happen to be, the market loves the game, and you've got a lot more reach with a pledge manager as well, because you don't need Kickstarter as an interest. You expand your market, that you can, your Facebook ad audience, it like multiplies times 5 or 10, as far as the amount of people eligible to receive those ads.
Potentially reach.
But yeah, so as far as pledge managers, I would consider both BackerKit and GameFound. I haven't decided one way or another. I think that BackerKit, the thing is, if you come to BackerKit before your Kickstarter ends and you make a deal with them and say, you're my company, you actually do get a better deal than if you go to them and partner afterward.
And what's the catch with GameFound? I thought GameFound was free.
Yeah, so the difference with GameFound is it's really so from what I was told about others that have used the back end of GameFound is that it's free. I guess you get what you pay for. Whereas BackerKit, for example, you have a team that can help you, someone you can call, that kind of thing. GameFound, you're going to do everything on your own. You have to navigate the issues by yourself, and I forget what it's called, like the developer tools or developer resources are quite sparse and not very helpful. So if you want free, there is a little bit of a price in your time to get it right. And so for BackerKit, there are a lot of other tools that I think are quite competitive, but one of them is their customer service, and I really do think that matters. So I'm not decided yet on the pledge manager. I just know that I'm absolutely going to be using one.
So finally, Andrew, what are some of the risks and challenges to running a Kickstarter campaign that you have encountered or you think you will encounter moving forward?
This really actually needs to be explained in your Kickstarter, in the bottom of your Kickstarter page. It's like a required section. You have to have risks and challenges figured out, right? And for me, I think it is a little more obvious. It would be my first time fulfilling a Kickstarter project. So I think that it's so important to have a reliable manufacturer. It's really important that you have a strong fulfillment partner and that kind of thing to minimize your risks. It's also very important that you have a plan if things go sour. So usually what I see, what I foresee is, if elements change, like shipping rates, or maybe manufacturing costs of materials go up, that type of thing really needs to be accounted for ahead of time. So I think that the risks and challenges that I of really, it kind of boils down to unknown expenses that you're gonna run into, and I think that we're prepared for for that, for every contingency. I try to be prepared with our budgets and that kind of thing. I mean, I know that if I had another project that was successfully fulfilled, that this project would make more money. Even if it has viral success and just explodes and everybody shares about it, and I know that it would still make more money if I had a successful project fulfilled already. And so that's just one of those things that I have to deal with. It's actually one of the reasons I was so intent on speaking with publishers, because a publisher, not only do they have some experience fulfilling projects, but they've got proof that they've done it successfully. So they're a bigger better chance of success.
Maybe this is where you need to leverage your expertise in marketing, and that you have helped many other board game developers, independent board game developers, fund successfully on Kickstarter. So that might be a good stat to have at the bottom of the page. And maybe like a little blurb: Andrew Lowen has successfully helped X amount of projects fund on Kickstarter. Has been an advisor on so many projects, and maybe you'd have a bit of some testimonies there. Would be like little quotes, would be probably very, very helpful with thrashing that objection.
All right, fellow nerds, looks like it's time to go. Thanks for listening with us. For more information about this podcast, please visit crowdfundingnerds.com. Thanks a lot, and see you guys on the next episode.
Adios, amigos.
TTFN. Ta-ta for now.